now listening to Chop Talk by the fan, for the fan.
What's up, guys? You're listening to Chop Talk by the fan, for the fan. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Bailey.
I'm your other host. My name is Ethan Medlin. And, we're diehard Braves fans our whole lives. And we're here, talk everything Braves, regular season, postseason, off-season, trades. If it's got to do with the Braves, we're here to cover it. We'll cover some more MLB, especially NL East, as we go. But, our goal, we're going to try to get you an episode out once a week, And, Bailey, lead it off.
We were hoping to get this new venture for us up and going before opening day, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, we weren't quite able to do that, so we're going to kind of scratch the original playbook we had for our first episode, and we're just going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. 0-6 with going 1 for 34 with runners in scoring position.
It's been an abysmal start to the season. I mean, AA, he made some questionable moves this offseason, especially with letting a lot of pitchers walk, understandably, for Max Fried's price tag. I understand it, but not bringing anything else in. So going into the season, the pitching was, hey, how's this going to go? And, as Bailey can tell you what Snit said today.
Oh, yeah. After last night's game, manager Brian Snitker told the media, the Braves are not pitching bad. They're throwing well enough to be in the games. They're throwing well enough to win. Our guys are just not getting hits right now, and I mean it's not just a slow start for one or two guys. I mean it's the entire team. I mean we've scored 2 runs in the last 40 innings.
Yeah.
I mean that's obviously not good. So you can sit here and beat a dead horse, but you've also got to be optimistic for the guys who are in the lineup tonight, and the guys that are there. I mean, one guy that's not in the lineup is Jurickson Profar. I mean, obviously, I think everybody knows what happened with that situation. I think that couldn't be a bigger kick in the mouth. You get a guy in the offseason to kind of fill that one of those 2 positions you had on the field that everybody was kind of questioning, and then one series into the season he gets popped for testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. So obviously that's not good. But I mean that's one of the things you got to just kind of just take on the mouth and just keep on going with it.
And one thing I could really go on a tangent with the MLB, with that whole thing, is the fact that reports are coming out that this test was done prior to him being signed by Atlanta, and he was under investigation by the MLB prior to his signing, and did not let the Braves know that he was under investigation.
Oh yeah, I mean that's you can look at it any way you want, whether you're a Braves fan or whether you're not, and you're hoping, wishing bad luck on them or whatever. But at the end of the day, the MLB's got to be fair, and if a test is done, just like whenever a trade or a signing is delayed pending a physical of a player, it should be the same with a drug test. They've got to be, kept in the loop on, hey, is this player not only healthy, but is he eligible? Is he going to be allowed to play? And, I think, honestly, that just kind of it hurt the entire organization, because now all year long they've got in the back of their mind, hey, we've got this guy that we signed in the offseason that's a good player, and he doesn't really mean anything now because he's only going to help us get to the postseason. He's not going to help us in the postseason because that's part of his ban. He's not even going to be able to play in October. So it's hard to be optimistic about stuff like that.
It really is. It's I don't want to say shooting ourselves in the foot, because the Braves organization didn't. The MLB shot him in the foot. But at the same time, that's money we could have took towards pitchers. Could have took towards, I'm going to go ahead and say it, another shortstop.
Yep.
I'm not an Arcia fan. I'm not. I think he's decent. But from the talent we had in Dansby Swanson and that 21 team, I just don't think Arcia fits well with the Braves.
Oh, no. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's not a bad player, but he's, in my opinion, he's not a franchise shortstop. I think he, in my opinion, he definitely beat out Vaughn Grissom 2 years ago for the starting shortstop spot when they didn't re-sign Dansby Swanson. He was on the All-Star team that year in 2023. But what has he done since? He's got a good glove, he's got a decent glove, good arm, fairly okay bat. When he's playing well, I mean, he's on top of the world. But when he's not, just like anybody else, he's just not producing. And excuse me. And in the last year and a half, he hasn't really showed me much. And I'm not here to Monday quarterback him or whatever. But I mean, that's just how it is. But it kind of finish on the whole Profar situation. Not only were the Braves kind of given the short end of the stick from the MLB for the delayed informant of the testing results, but you also got to remember that Profar needs to be held accountable. You can say, I didn't know what was in this supplement, or whatever players have been saying since 2002, since the end of the steroid era. When you're a professional athlete, you have to know what's going into your body, and if you don't know what's going into your body, you don't need to be taking it. So obviously, he's got to be held accountable for that. I don't think he's a bad person for it. I think he just made a mistake. And unfortunately, it's going to cost him half a season and the postseason. But in a way, it's also going to cost the Braves a whole lot, because now, they've signed this contract to him, and they're not really going to be able to benefit from him.
HCG. And it's not like it's something new. It's the same thing that Manny Ramirez got pegged for way back in the day. And I'm going to try to say this for y'all. Human chorionic gonadotrophin. I may have butchered that, and I'm sorry. That's just me trying to read it off to y'all. But, it's not like it's something that's just been on the banned substance list and, you were unaware of it. This is something that has been around a while. And yes, just like Tatis a couple years ago, they go back to their home countries because Profar's from Curacao. Mm-hmm. They go back to their home countries, to their doctors, and they get this stuff. It's a whole lot easier to get in other places because they're not illegal like they are in America.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back and boom, you get pegged for it. And you may, given the benefit of the doubt, he may not have knew it was in it. Might have been given to him by a doctor. Purely speculation. Mm-hmm. That is not fact. I've not seen that anywhere. It's just purely speculation. But like Bailey said, if you're not sure exactly what you're taking, don't take it. Don't risk multi-million dollars and even just the love of baseball to play the game for a tiny edge when you're on one of the most potent teams in the league. It's not like you're out here, had a bad season before going into your free agency season where you need a good season to get a contract. You just got a good contract. You're set, But you're going to go risk it for something now. And now, even take past this postseason that Profar's not going to be playing. If he ever dreamed of being in the Hall of Fame, that's gone. That's out.
Oh, yeah, it is gone.
You are labeled a cheater now.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think Profar's a bad dude, like I said earlier, and I think he's a heck of a player. And I do like him as a player. But at the same time, Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame. Alex Rodriguez is not in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame. That was gambling. That's a separate situation. But at the same time, these guys that are caught up in controversy, whether you're truly reprimanded the way the public feels you should be, it doesn't matter the weight of your suspension or your consequences. If it comes out that you have been involved in some kind of controversy, then you just hurt yourself. And I hate it for him. I just think he just made a bad decision, or truth be told, he may have honestly not known what he was taking. But again, it all circles back to, if you don't know what you're taking, don't take it. That's, we can sit here and talk about that all night. I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is. But now the Braves have just got to find a way to get somebody out there in left field to kind of fill that role, and just put a decent batting lineup, good glove in the outfield. And I think one of those people is probably going to be Alex Verdugo. Honestly, when they signed him, within the last couple of weeks. I was not expecting that. I think with Profar being in the lineup, they were kind of set in the outfield, and now they just kind of needed, either Kelnick or Eli White to kind of be those platoon guys on the bench, especially when Ronald Acuna comes back. But now, I mean, they've got a lot going through their minds, definitely. And Stuart Fairchild just being acquired yesterday from the Reds. I don't think that's a bad move because, I mean, hey, it's early in the year, so why not test the waters and see what we can get and see who can get on a roll and see who can start hitting. So I mean, we'll see. But so far through the first 6 games, we're giving up 26 runs, which is not terrible. I mean, that's averaging like just over 4.5 runs a game.
Correct. If
If you're giving up 4.5 runs a game, you're in the ball game.
Oh, for sure.
Even if you haven't scored all game, you're in the 9th inning. You've given up 4.5 runs. You're in that game because you can have a big inning and definitely stay in it. I would say the only hiccup game might be, what was it, the 6-1 game on Monday night?
Like we were talking in the green room right before this. Every game but the 6-1 loss to the Dodgers, the game was lost in the 7th inning and after.
Yep.
Our starters have been going out there and keeping us in ball games. Our bullpen's been doing a decent job. As we're recording this right now, we're watching the 7th game of the season. Right now, just finished the top of the first. Braves are up 2-0. But, like last night, Sale, he pitched really good. He had one bad pitch to Mookie Betts, left a slider over the plate. He got a hold of it. But Pierce Johnson come in. He gave us a great inning. Dylan Lee came in. He gave us a great inning. For the most part, our bullpen's been doing okay.
Yep.
But when we're, like I said, we're giving up, the Braves, as of right now, are averaging 2 runs a game. So only giving up 4.5 is not bad, but when averaging 2 runs a game, that's not going to win you ball games.
Oh, no.
It shows right now.
Oh no, it's scoring only 2 runs a game is going to barely win you those games when your pitching staff goes out there and absolutely deals. But on the days where your pitching staff goes out there and gives up a few hits, leaves a couple balls over the plate like last night, you're not even going to win those games. Even when you pitch very well and you give up 3 runs, well, if you're only scoring 2 runs, well, that's still a loss. But I think it's going to be a work in progress. I think there's a lot of lineup options that manager Brian Snicker's going to go with this year. Michael Harris is not in the lineup tonight, and Ozzie is leading off. Ozzie, I think you can put him anywhere and he's going to hit. He's got speed. He can hit for average. He can hit for power. So it doesn't hurt my feelings that he's leading off tonight. When Acuna comes back and whenever Sean Murphy comes back, I think you're going to start seeing the bats heat up a little bit. We were talking earlier today, and I made the comment that some of the veterans are probably feeling like, hey, this is a little weird seeing, a new face on the field beside me every single night because we haven't really had a consistent lineup. And Ethan, you told me that, hey, those guys, that might be true, but those guys that are veterans, they've got to step up and say, hey, it don't matter who we put in the lineup, we're still capable of winning. And that's a very good point that you made today. But, it's going to be, like I said, a work in progress. I'm excited for Murphy to come back. I think he's one of the best catchers in the league. But I will say I am very impressed with how Baldwin has done his first few games.
I thoroughly enjoyed watching Baldwin his first few games. Watching him last night with Chris Sale. And as you know, Chris Sale loves for his catcher to call the ball game. And I think, Chris Sale spoke highly of Drake Baldwin in the spring and going into last night's game. Spoke highly of him. And I think coming from a veteran that is Chris Sale, someone that was entrusted to go in there and close out the World Series for Boston when he was on the Red Sox, that speaks highly of someone that's going to give Drake Baldwin confidence. Now, he has had probably the most unlucky start to a season that you could ever have. He's had 2 homers robbed. He's had a ball hit off the pitcher's mound, go directly to first base. He's had another one hit off the pitcher, drop straight down. Teoscar made a play over the fence in foul territory on him last night. Contact-wise, he's been our best solid contact hitter. He just has not. Everything's been to a glove.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just been getting unlucky.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's baseball. I mean, anybody that's ever played baseball or been around the game, I mean, you're going to have, some batting stints where, it just happens. You barrel one up and you hit it great, and you just hit it right to somebody. I mean, that's why the defense is there. It happens. Just like in another dimension, you may hit a ball, with a 60-mile-an-hour exit velocity, but it might fall right behind the third baseman, for a single. But talking about Chris Sale's praise to Baldwin, earlier he said that, he was giving Baldwin a lot of props, saying he's got an unbelievable work ethic, he's got a great routine, and he's around all the right guys. That's what you want from a guy who is in position to take over a very important position. He's not afraid to ask questions, and he's doing all the right things. I mean, that might be the best thing that someone of Chris Sale's stature could say about a young rookie like that. Because I mean, obviously he's coming into the to the show this year with a little, probably being a little nervous. But I think he's handled it very well. He got his first runner thrown out in the first series against the Padres, and like Ethan just said, he's hitting the ball well. I think he's just going to get better. As he gets those at-bats, he's going to keep getting good pitches to see. He's going to keep hitting it hard, and he's just going to get better behind the plate with the pitching staff that we've got.
And as you stated earlier today, ever since, for a while now, past 6, 7 seasons, the Braves have never had a solid, this is our catcher, this is our guy. We've been between Contreras, d'Arnaud, now Murphy. Last couple of seasons, it's been d'Arnaud and Murphy splitting time behind the plate. And I think when Murphy comes back, that's going to be what happens again this season. I think they're going to split time between the plate. But like you stated today, I think that Baldwin is going to be the future of the Braves catcher position.
Yep.
I think that he's going to come out this season, might not be next season, but by the 2027 season, Baldwin's going to be our everyday guy behind the plate.
Oh, yeah.
And just the only time he's not going to be back there is when he needs a break, when we've had, it's the middle of summer in June, we've had an 8-game home stretch.
Oh, yeah.
And he needs a day off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you got to remember, the game is getting younger year by year. Guys are not playing into their 40s like they used to, and catchers certainly are not playing as long as they used to. I mean, you got to remember, Sean Murphy's 30 years old. Now, am I saying he's an old man? Absolutely not. He can still catch. He's still one of the best catchers in the league. But you got to remember, like you just said, we're talking 2 years from now in 2027. Murphy may have a knee problem. He may have injuries that hurt him, or he may just start losing his rhythm a little bit. I surely hope he doesn't. I think he's a good player, and I really like watching him play. But I would not be surprised if with Baldwin's comfortability right out of the minors into the show this year, I would not be surprised if they took a gamble and said, "Hey, we're going to take a chance on this kid being our franchise catcher, our franchise catcher, and either move Sean Murphy into a DH position." Because you got to remember, Marcell Ozuna's contract ends this year.
Yeah.
And with the Braves the last few years not re-signing these guys that are in their early to mid 30s, I don't see us watching Marcell Ozuna in a Braves uniform next year. So I mean,
there's a solid chance.
I mean, there's a possibility that if they don't re-sign him, that may keep Murphy and Baldwin both together, and they may split time at the plate, and they may split time in the DH position. I mean, there's a whole lot of options that they've got for not only this year, but for next year and the years to come.
And I could be wrong with this, but just sticking out in memory, and we can check it, I don't think since AA has took over as the GM role, he has re-signed any player that's gone to free agency. I cannot think of it.
I believe you're right.
Freddie Freeman, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Travis d'Arnaud, just to name a few guys right off the top. I mean, Freddie Freeman, career Brave.
Yep.
the guy we sat down in 2014 in our rebuild and said, "You're our guy.
Yep.
We're going to rebuild around you."
That's right.
He didn't go out there and yes, they made him a good deal, and yes, there's some controversy around whether his agent gave the Braves the final deal that matched the Dodgers deal. But we're not here to batter old wounds. We're just stating why we believe, there's a solid chance this is going to be Azuna's last year in a Braves uniform.
Yeah. Well,
Unless, everything that has gone on off the field and his drama affects people's willing to pay for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and talking about, AA's decision to sign or re-sign or be a little hesitant with some of these guys whose contracts have ended, like I said, with the game getting younger, I think Anthopoulos is one of those people that recognizes that and he understands that. I mean, you've got guys that are coming into the league at a lot younger ages than they used to be. So if that's the way he thinks, he's not wanting to sign this guy that's, 34, 35 years old that might give you a good year when he can go out and get a young guy and bring him up and give you a decent year, but then the following year be even better and then give you even more years after that.
And I like that train of thought because look at our core. Acuna, Albies, Riley, Michael Harris. All these guys were brought up in the Braves farm system.
Yep.
These were all Braves guys. These weren't people we traded for. These were guys we brought up, we developed, and look at them. Now Albies is the longest tenured Brave on our roster at, I believe, his 8th year this year.
That's right.
And, we've got all these guys. Yeah, we signed them young to long contracts at a fairly prorated rate, if we're honest. But, we're getting towards the end. I believe Albies has, 2 years left on his contract? Acuna's got 3?
That sounds right. We'll have to double check that, but that's about right.
Yeah. But, we're going to have to either dig in and build this farm system, or the Braves are going to have to open up the pocketbook. Because we're not a small market team.
No.
We're in Atlanta. We're, originally in Atlanta owned by Ted Turner. That's CBS. That's TBS. We have the pocketbook for these guys. And I get it. Game's going younger and everything. But look at the Dodgers. Pitching tonight, Blake Snell. What's Blake Snell, 32, 33?
Yeah, roughly.
I mean, Tyler Glass now. Look at the roster they have. It's not a young roster. Yeah, Blake Snell, we just looked it up, 32 years old. They're not a young roster. They are a juggernaut.
Yep.
Now, yes, I get it. The Dodgers are working with a way bigger checkbook. They're like the 3rd richest franchise in all of sports, American sports. Because I'm not going to bring in the British and English and then all this because I don't know nothing about how much those soccer teams across the ocean are worth. But in American sports, you've got the Cowboys, the Mets, the Yankees, and the Dodgers.
Yep.
All big pocketbooks. So I get it, all that deferred money they give Ohtani. But eventually, the Braves are going to have to open up the pocketbook and start re-signing some of these guys, or this 0-6 start we're doing right now may be the new norm in a couple of years.
Yep.
If we go through a rebuild.
Well, and talking about guys that are getting up there in age, and it sounds weird to say this, but 30 is the new 40 in my opinion.
It for sure is
in baseball at least. Another one that's that has just hit the 30 mark is Orlando Arcia. His contract goes through the end of next year, 2026. If we've got him through next year, I highly doubt we'll see him in 2027. I don't think we will. But like I said earlier, he's not a bad player. I don't really dislike him. I will say I'm not his biggest fan, mainly from in the postseason in 2022 when we lost Game 4 against the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's turning around in the dugout, making faces and mocking the fans. I mean, that's just not professional. And I don't like seeing other players do it on other teams, so I'm not going to be biased and say that it was okay for him to do that. I didn't care for it.
I agree with you on that. You look at some of these guys. Take Acuna for a perfect example. You go back and look at the videos of, when he tore his ACLs. He is crying as they are taking him off the field, and he's not crying from pain.
Yeah.
He is crying from the pure sadness of not being able to play the game he loves.
Yeah. It might be a little bit of pain because I'm sure an ACL doesn't feel
it's
very good.
It's definitely a little bit of pain, but the real tears, and he said it I'm pretty sure he said it in an interview, that was tears of sadness of not being able to play baseball.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, when you lose in the postseason, this isn't no Monday night mid-June game.
Yeah.
This is a game that you lose, you go home.
Yeah.
Your season's done.
That's right.
You shouldn't be worried about making faces at the fan. You should be, my season's over.
You should be pissed off.
Yeah. What did I leave on the table?
I mean, but I don't see it being signed after the end of next year. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you wouldn't see him in a different uniform by August of this year.
If Nick Allen keeps playing the way he's playing, I mean, he's gone 1 for 1 tonight, and that brings his season batting average to the top of the Braves at 375. That's not saying much because our next highest is Marcell Ozuna at 214.
Yeah.
Speaking of our veteran guys, like we were talking earlier, let's just go down our top 4 lineup 1 through 4 today. Those are our veteran guys. Those are our cornerstones of the Braves. Ozzie Albies is batting 167 right now. Ozuna, 214. Austin Riley. And we are huge Austin Riley fans. We love him to death. But he is batting a measly 0.87 on the season so far.
Yep.
And Matt Olson, the guy that we brought in to replace Freeman. I did not like it at first. I've come to love Matt Olson, and I think he's a great first baseman.
Yep.
One of the best in the leagues, if not the best. He's batting 167 on the season right now.
Yep.
I mean, we can harp on having young guys and everything, but when our four nights of our lineup, basically half of our lineup are veteran-proven guys, can't step up, how are we expected to ask these AAA guys and these guys bouncing around trying to find a place to step up?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it's only going to get better because, I mean, obviously 0-6, you can't get much worse except for 0-7.
And speaking of 0-7, I saw a thing today. No team that's ever started the season 0-7 has made it to the postseason.
Well, as of right now, I don't want to speak too soon. I mean, give me something to knock on wood real quick, but we're up 3-0 at the top of the second with the bases loaded and 1 out, and Austin Riley's coming to the plate. So we might be 1-6 after tonight. We don't know yet. There's still a lot of baseball to play, but just talking about the veteran guys, like you mentioned, yeah, it's a slow start for a lot of these guys. Olson, Riley, Harris, Albies. I mean, Ozuna, even though he's one of the top hitters on the team right now through the first 6 games, he's still only batting 214, which is not good. I think the bats just got to get woken up. They got to get in their rhythm. I think the pitching is doing well enough to at least to keep us in the games, and then we just got to manufacture some runs, whether it's just hitting the crap out of the ball and hitting 200-something home runs a year like we've done for the last couple of years, or if it's just getting base hits. When Acuna comes back, that's going to be another bat in the lineup. Murphy's obviously going to be an option.
And our big boy coming back, Spencer Strider.
Yes, sir. I can't wait to see that mustache on the mound.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
Oh.
And what does that give us? Actually, 2 actual starters on the mound now?
Yeah.
Sale and Strider?
Yeah.
Because Elder started tonight, and he just got pulled back up from AAA, but I mean...
Yep. Well, and then you've got Grant Holmes. Obviously Renato Lopez. They're going to do some work on him and see what kind of injury he's got. They don't know if anything structural is going on, or if it's just kind of one of those freak things going on that's just causing pain or discomfort. But he's on the injured list right now, so we're hoping for him to get well soon and get back on the mound just as soon as he can. But obviously, not too soon. We want him to heal the right way and heal, in a way that's going to, better him for his future. We don't want to bring him back too soon. I think they've got even with having some injuries, they're still a good enough ball team to where they can win some games and they can play just good enough to keep them close until we are healthy later in the year, and then I think eventually we'll take off. They've got too much talent, too much pitching, too much hitting, too much camaraderie within the guys in the clubhouse for them to not be a good team. I mean, this team they're not gonna lose 90 games this year. I highly doubt we see that happen.
And something I want to touch on, something I sent you yesterday, and I was like, who's this? We DFA'd Jesse Chavez today to bring up Zach Thompson. Now, I did some looking at this guy, and he has not pitched in the major leagues or baseball, from what I can find, since 2021.
It's a long time.
It is. And he's been pulled up to the majors.
Yeah. I mean,
Jesse Chavez was DFA'd. Now, is something going on with Chavez, or are we just DFA'ing him to give him some rehab starts?
I think he's just, honestly, I don't know. I haven't read anything on. Yeah, he's not injured. I think it's just one of those things of, hey, he's got to stay active. At his age, I make it sound like he's 80 years old, but at his age, he's got to keep that arm loose. So if he's not going to get a lot of innings out of the pen right now, for our major league team, he does need to go down and stay in that rhythm and get some innings for Gwinnett.
Yeah, he's not 80 years old, but kind of like you said, 30's the new 40, and Jesse Chavez is real life 41 years old.
Yep.
I mean, he's got some age on that arm. He's got some tenure on that arm.
So if he stays in long enough, he might pass Julio Franco for being the oldest Brave. But I don't even know if Franco was the oldest Brave, but it seemed like he was. It seems like he had wrinkles whenever we were kids. He was still playing for the Braves at like 48 years old. But no, I mean, once we get Strider back, he's on the come up. He's going to be back soon. And talking about the pitching, we lost, Tyler Matzik, AJ Minter, Charlie Morton, Max Fried. Of all those guys that I would have liked to see re-signed, I probably would have picked AJ Minter. He's a good arm out of the pen. He's solid. He's a bulldog. He's going to go out there and he's going to give you his best. He ain't afraid of any hitter in the league. Max Fried, I think that could have been a toss-up. I think mainly the reason he wasn't re-signed is because Anthopoulos might have looked at him and said, "Hey, you're 31. What is he? 31 years old? I believe that's right. 31 years old, and you've been injured a couple times the last couple years. We're not going to take a realistic chance on you."
Yes, AJ Minter is 31.
He is 31. Or Max Fried. What's Max Fried? Was he 31?
And then I'm pretty sure Max Fried's in his 30s also.
Oh, I know he's in his 30s. I was just trying to get an exact number, but Morton, Morton,
he is 31 also.
He's 31. Okay, well I guess I'm that good. But and Charlie Morton, he came to the Braves. He gave us some good years. That World Series team was awesome. He did very well. He's done very well since then. But at the same time, he's in his late 30s. I didn't expect him to get re-signed. Max Fried, I wasn't really surprised about him not getting re-signed. Yeah. But like I said, AJ Minter, I would have liked to see him, kind of be that captain in the bullpen.
I agree with that. But for me, just as a Braves fan and personally, I'd love to see Nutsack come back. Old Tyler Matthews. He will forever, to the day I die, hold a special place in my heart for that night he struck out the Dodgers 3 in a row with the bases loaded.
Yeah, that's hard to beat. That is hard to beat. And you go year by year and you remember certain games and certain situations of certain players, doing their job, not trying to do too much. And I mean, it's been fun watching a lot of these guys over the years, and I'm looking forward to watching a lot of these younger guys get their opportunity to prove what they can do, but also see these veterans kind of put the team on their back and say, "Hey, this is my job. This is what I was brought in to do. This is what we're going to do." So,
yeah, I'm right there with you. I agree. You can go back, like you said, season by season, and just there's certain plays in each season that we'll always remember. And talking all these young guys, we really do tonight. We have a very young lineup.
Yep.
Michael Harris, he's not starting in center field for us tonight. Eli White is. Our outfield tonight is, is De La Cruz, it is Eli White, and it is Fairchild.
Yep.
And tonight we've been praising Baldwin. He's not behind the plate tonight. Chadwick Trump is. I'm excited to see what he can do behind the plate.
Yep.
But we have a very young, just team on the field tonight.
Yeah.
Nick Allen at shortstop. RC isn't even at shortstop. Back-to-back nights, we've got Nick Allen starting at shortstop. And, going back to our praise on Baldwin earlier, I think Sean Murphy coming back is going to be a good help for Baldwin because it's going to be a veteran catcher that he can, talk to and get. Because, yes, he can talk to Sale. He can talk to any of the veterans, pitchers. But to have that veteran catcher there to support you and get advice from, that I think is going to be a tremendous help in the development of Baldwin's abilities and game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's only going to help him. It's not going to hurt him. I mean, having a guy like Sean Murphy in the clubhouse with you is not going to do anything but help you if you're a catcher or even a pitcher that is your counterpart. So that is going to be a big help whenever he gets back. And it's also going to be, like we were talking about veterans earlier, it's going to be another veteran on the field, another guy in the clubhouse that can, even when he's not on the field, he can help the guys that are in the lineup. So I think, we've just got off to a bad start, and, it is what it is. I mean, that's why the season is 162 games long. I mean, you play for October. You don't play for April. You don't play for May. They're not going to lose, like I said earlier, they're not going to lose 90 or 90-something games this year. There's too much talent, too much pitching. They're going to do well. But another thing about that is what are you going to do when you get to June and July and you're playing, over 500 baseball and you're like, oh, shoot, we're obviously not a bad team. We're going to make the postseason. What do we expect to see from Anthopoulos in the coming months?
For real, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm trying to find it right now in 2021. We only won 88 games that season, I believe. We played 4 months of the 2021 season. We played with a winning percentage at 500 or below. We didn't surpass a 500 record until August 6th. So, yeah, we still got hope for the season, and we're still hopeful it's going to be a good season. But, as diehard Braves fans, as watching a team that's won 7 NL East until last year, championships in a row, it's hard to see your team that you love start out the season so slow. But, it's just one of those things, That 2021 season, I believe, like I said, we won 88 games, and I'm going to look that up for y'all right now. But, yes, we finished the season atop of the NL East at 88 and 73. We were the least winning team in the postseason that year, and we went on to win it all. So, like I said, come June, July, 500 ball team, we're having different conversations than we are right now. And we believe we can get there. We have the ability to. We aren't healthy right now. It may not seem that way because we have a lot of our core there, but we're not healthy. We have 2 real starting pitchers. Our MVP in Acuna is still not back. He won't be back till, early to mid-May, hopefully. But so we look forward to these guys coming back and, getting the season back on track. And, I think we sniff out a win tonight, 1-6. We're looking better. Obviously, we have off tomorrow because we go back to Atlanta Friday for the home opener. And you know about Fridays in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah. And then Saturdays wearing those City Connect jerseys. I mean, they're playing their first home series of the year against the Marlins.
Yes.
So I think my personal opinion, I believe you're going to see us to be probably 3-7 at the minimum after Sunday. I think we're going to win tonight. We're up 5-0 in the bottom of the second. Obviously, there's a lot of baseball to be played tonight, but I think we're going to get a win tonight. We're going to get some momentum, and then we're going to go home, take the series up against the Marlins, win at least 2 out of 3. We're going to be we're at least going to be 3-7, or we're going to be 4-6 after this weekend. But talking about what we're going to see later in the year, we've seen time and time again that Alex Anthopoulos is not afraid to make a move once the season has got going, and we see what we're struggling with, and what we need help on. So as the season goes on, you got to keep an eye on the other teams in the league, because a team like the Toronto Blue Jays, if they're not playing well, they're in the last year of Bo Bichette's contract, who's obviously a premier shortstop. So if they're not looking to make the postseason, they're probably going to be willing to trade him as a rental player for some good prospects. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was kind of what we're looking at later on in the year, just because there was a lot of there were some rumors about Bo Bichette being traded to Atlanta during the offseason for a little while there. It didn't happen. I think Anthopoulos had some more tricks up his sleeve. He had some more thinking to do. I'm not questioning him whatsoever. I think he's a great GM. He's done a great job in Toronto. He's done a great job in Atlanta. I think he's got his game plan. He's sticking to it, and I don't think the trade talk with Bo Bichette is out the window. I think that's still there, especially depending on how our season goes and depending on how Toronto's season goes. But if we're playing good, and if Arcia has another All-Star year, then great. Roll with it. You got to roll with what's working. You can't just put a player in the lineup that's batting well, and you can't take a player out of the lineup that's not that is batting well. But if he's not performing, I think now would be the time to find a good fit for that position. And in my opinion, Bo Bichette would be the way to go. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster year. Just like that year in 2021 when they won the World Series. That was a crazy season. Constantly battling 500, win 2 games, lose 1 game, win 1 game, lose 2 games. But then they finally put it all together. I think that's what this team this year is going to be about. I think what we're going to see is a lot of scrappy ball games. I think we got some dogs on the field that they're going to fight. This team ain't going to roll over. They're going to be willing to go out there and fight and just see who can be the last man standing.
And I think that's honestly a great place to wrap up our first episode. We're going to finish out watching this Dodgers game tonight. We go home for 6 games, 3 versus the Marlins, 3 versus the Phillies. And, we look forward to being back with y'all, within a week. And hopefully it's a little bit different conversation we're having. Hopefully, like Bailey said, we go 2-1 against the Marlins. And, hopefully we can go 2-1 against the Phillies. It's our big rival now, especially after these past couple of postseasons. And hopefully the next time y'all hear from us, we're looking at a,
500 ball club,
Yeah,
roughly.
roughly 500
gotta
ball
be.
club.
All you got to do is just win the series. Win the series, and you increase your win total by 1. So if you take 2 out of 3 against the Marlins and 2 or 3 out of the Phillies, and you win 1 tonight, then boom, you're looking at a what would
5
that
and
be?
7.
5 and
Five
7,
and-
5 and 8, 5 and 8 ball club. Now you're 3 games closer to 500, and that's all you can do. You still have over 150 games left. So we'll see what we can do, and we'll be back with y'all shortly. Appreciate it, guys.